Hello everyone. Today the black moon, the lunar apogee, changed signs. This is a very powerful and particular point. That is where the moon is farthest away, as you can see from Earth. And this point in space, which also is the direction of the second empty focus point of the moon as seen from Earth, this moves around Earth in a 9-year cycle. And every 9 months, if you divide 9 years, 9 times 12 is 108. If you divide that by 12 signs, that gives you exact 9 months in each sign. So this numerological sequence shows you the importance of that point. This is where there is the fear that we might lose the moon. In an allegorical way, it moves ever farther away from Earth, and this shows you the different sizes of the moon. If you would photograph our beloved Lunar at this point in space, it would be much smaller than where it would appear when it's at its perigee, at its closest place. So the lunar apogee moves in a very weird pattern. I did make this, okay, where it is, here it is, okay, here we are. So I did a little graph a few years ago, actually it's quite a few years ago, you see it dates back to 2012-13 here. That's when I did start doing some more serious research on the black moon. So this is the graph. It shows you the red line is where the moon is farthest away from Earth, and the green dots where the moon is closest to Earth. Now, this is the monthly pattern of that farthest point, and you see it's quite big swings. So for example, here we were at about 5 degrees Taurus at the beginning of the month on October 1st, and then it shifted all the way into about 10 degrees Cancer by early February here, as you can see. So within a month we have this extreme movement, then it goes back. It's kind of resembling the DNA spiral. That was my image, and naturally the moon is very much connected with life on Earth. So first I want to make the point why I'm using the median here, which is that purple dotted line. This is the mean lunar apogee. That is the axis where the moon is waving around, so it would make lots of sense to use this as a stable center of the moon's farthest place in the sky. And again, this point is moving, which is unusual. Most or pretty much all other planets have a very stable elliptical orbit, always in the same place. They are farthest away from Earth. So what is the meaning of the lunar apogee? It is the shadow point. It is everything we don't want to look at, what we push away. It's kind of the deepest trench in the ocean. You could compare it to where everything settles, everything unprocessed, what we push away from our conscious mind and not want to deal with. So when the lunar apogee now is in a very powerful position, like the cardinal axis, and I'm showing you now here the chart, just bear with me, just pull it up. Here we are, which is the universal axis, in that sense, the one which is the public, the world point, it's called. In some astrologers call it the cardinal 0 degrees, the 4 world points, where things are standing out most obviously, and most prominently in the collective field. And no doubt what we are experiencing just the last few days. Those of you who watched that documentary by Dr. Ardis and Stu Peters, and I did post quite a bit about that. This has to be taken with a big grain of salt. And it is kind of typical of that very last minutes of Gemini, which that was born under, so to say, which is a very refined way of influencing our minds. So I would definitely suggest you look into Amanda Vollmer's work. I have published it on my Facebook page, also on my Telegram. If you're new to my channel, please join me on Telegram, which is Celestial Rhythms. You will find me, where I'm posting regularly world-related events, but also astrology. That's kind of where my work goes. I want to show the connection between what's going on our planet in relation to the astrological alignments. So this was a very big one that just happened a couple hours ago, and the moon now will be for 9 months in Cancer, the moon's sign. So this will be exaggerated, that emotional energy, that up and down, these big waves up and down of being thrown from one extreme to the other. It will be a very emotional time. Naturally, we all know that from what is about to come. And I want to just read you a few things here I just recently wrote. It's actually okay. It's not this one. This is coming up. I guess I don't have this on my screen, but I said it will be a roller coaster. What we are getting into, an emotional roller coaster. It's about healing and helping each other, lots of heart energy. That's the beautiful side of Cancer. So all that will come out in a much bigger way. Also remember, we are in a water year in the Chinese calendar. This is the year of the water tiger. So the emotional energies are getting strongly amplified over the next 9 months, particularly with the black moon in this sign. So this takes us from pretty much into January 2023 for the rest of this year. So that's why this chart is very important this moment. It shows the theme we will see, and I charted this for Paris to start with. I will show you different locations on the planet with this in this moment, and they are all very meaningful, and they show you the picture, the direction we're moving into. Why is France, why is Paris so important? On April the 24th, we will have an election in France between Macron and Marine Le Pen, and I did look into that astrologically, into these two candidates' charts. I have them here, just for those of you who are interested. This is Emmanuel Macron. That's all information available on the internet. I found this exact time of birth and birthday. I did the chart, and then I also found Marie Le Pen's time. Actually, I rectified this by a couple minutes backwards, so 11:18 a.m. is the time I came up with. And it is pretty obvious. I went into the fine print of the charts, used the progressions. Marie Le Pen has amazing cosmic advantage, if you want. So this is kind of the background, and then why it is that okay, here we are again. Why it is that the moon is here in the exact midheaven at this moment, it shows that France will pave the opening into a new and better world situation in general. Now I want to just swing back a little bit and show you a couple things here which I found actually today in my inbox. So this is from the Oval Circle, which is a Russian source, a reliable source, which is rare to find these days. So even though the West has done a fine job with sanctioning itself, this writer says, I think Russia should sanction them all for a month. I mean, you can read this whole thing. You can just stop for a sec here my recording and you can read it. I just want to focus on what is suggested here. Russia should sanction non-friendly states and stop gas, oil and raw materials delivery, because this is still going. You won't believe. I mean, nobody really focuses on that, but Russia has not stopped its supply of all the energy to Europe despite them sanctioning Russia, which is really particular. So let the people hit the streets and kick these US bootlicking assets out of office. Yes, indeed. And it continues here. So, but still there is hope. Let's wait for the French election results. If Le Pen wins, France will move out of NATO, or at least will reject any plans to sanction Russia. Then Germany, France, Hungary, and the list will grow, could re-evaluate the need for NATO and maybe lead to its collapse. Anyway, that gives you kind of the importance of these French elections. Now let's swing back to the Black Moon for a moment and speak a little bit more about this important point. Where we have it here. Okay, so it's also called the Black Moon Lilith. Now, I'm cautious using that name because there's also an asteroid Lilith. I don't want really to mix it up. But Lilith is the original wife of Adam, the first wife of Adam. She is also linked in with Kali, the Hindu goddess Kali. It has a 9-year orbit, spends 9 months in each sign. Here are some keywords: priestess versus prostitute, magic versus sorcery, forbidden fruit, angels and demons, animal magnetism, kundalini, tantric sex, seduction, the supernatural, intuition, psychic ability, psychic healing, hypnotism, charisma, altered states, glamour, shamanism, psychedelics, addiction and obsession. Now these are all possible expressions of it, but if we take the overarching word, it is deep and dark issues which are leading us into the abyss of emotions, and that's where this all will lead into. And we have just entered it, and the moon at that moment was in a perfect square, you see, at the beginning of Libra, in a cardinal sign. This is super important because it amplifies the black moon's energy here. And then there's also the equatorial ascendant for Paris, which is in this axis. So yes, this will really be the kind of the tongue on the scale what will happen in France. It will shift Earth's movement, Earth's evolution in a new direction. It's truly exciting. And again, this is just the first of a whole series of important alignments. I have done a few more recordings. Please go back and watch it where I give more details. Here I want to just focus on this chart. Now, while in France we have the moon here at the 10th house cusp, again the moon in a mundane chart is picturing, imaging the people. So the people are getting into highest position here. They are the ones which will tell the direction, and probably, they will probably try to rig the elections. I don't think it will be possible. I think the majorities will be so overwhelming in favor of Le Pen. If you have watched the news at all over the last years or so, there was enormous protesting going on in France through the last whole year. Pretty much every weekend the Yellow Vests started it, and then it has been epic. It's been rarely reported here in North America. So this is just giving you a bit of the background. Now let's look into different locations. If we go to Greenwich, then that's just slightly different. Naturally, it's a little different, but Greenwich again is the spot I usually use for the global chart, as it's the zero meridian and it's 51 degrees and 26 minutes above the equator, which is one septile, 1/7 of a circle. Very powerful angle connecting to the infinite, the bigger universe, kind of the umbilical cord where it's attached to Earth. That's kind of the reasoning behind, and it seems to produce excellent results, to use that point. First of all, we have the Sag rising. Sag, the sign of freedom, of Jupiter, of enlarging that Jupiter-Neptune conjunction, of dreaming in a new reality. That's the most positive expression. Naturally, there's also lots of other expressions possible with the Neptune and Jupiter, as I did speak about in that particular recording. So, also here in the collective global chart, we have a late Virgo midheaven. Actually, it is in that last section of hexagram 6, conflict and darkening of the light. So globally, this is a period of going into darkness and going to the very deepest layers of human psyche, of what is to be worked through, healed, and solved. I guess it is a great healing process which is going on as everything comes to the light. And the black moon here in the 7th house naturally speaks for that with the Gemini rising. So we're just coming out of these 9 months with the black moon in Gemini. Was kind of prepared the ground. It's more on the mental level where all that information has been released. Now it will get processed, digested, and really reaches people's deeper perception, our emotions, and emotions is naturally the most powerful part of who we are. If something resonates with our emotions, then we are getting to the core of the matter, and that's what is happening, what is just starting through these next 9 months. So what is outstanding here is Mars is the planet of highest degree, 2951 in Aquarius. So Mars is in a critical degree, and this generates a big urgency. Mars again in that sign where it had its third and final conjunction with Venus here at 001. That was on March the 6th, which started a whole new Venus-Mars cycle. So all that Aquarian energy of group dynamics and of working together, that is highly amplified, particularly also as there is Juno, which was all about teamwork and closing shoulders, supporting each other. Furthermore, we have the part of fortune here exactly on Mercury. Now, there's something particularly about Mercury in the last week, and this was just reported on the space weather page today. There were 3 major solar eruptions in the backside of the sun from our perspective, and they were Mercury directed. This was particularly mentioned whenever a planet receives a full blast of solar frequencies that triggers this planet's energy. So Mercury is highly energized right now, and in Taurus it's about making sense of reality, getting to a clear picture, a visual, a hands-on perception of what is really going on, and that is what is truly enlarged here with that part of fortune. Part of fortune always indicates what is most in our focus. It's a mirror point between sun, moon, and ascendant. Also, Mercury is just getting ready to conjunct Uranus, which happens over the next few days. So yeah, you will be able to get more of what is happening in the next few days. If you go back to my earlier recordings from a few days ago, they show you the whole powerful build-up of structures, of energetic shifts, which will lead into a better future. We are really at a very critical point right now with the Salacia-Makemake opposition getting exact on the 18th, just the next Monday, when Pholus will be in the perfect T-square here within an hour or so. This is super, super powerful, very explosive in that sense of initiating that next chapter of rebuilding Earth, building a new Earth. Makemake and Salacia, just want to throw in, make 35 exact oppositions between 2017 and 2034, and all in the cardinal signs here. And in short, Makemake is a daredevil, a creator force, taking on big leaps and chances to implement something new, true reforming energy. Salacia is about enjoyment and getting full-heartedly involved. Pholus is the activator here, the one which pulls the cork out of the bottle. So we are really at 1/3 through this big window between 2017 and 2034, and this is the most powerful of the 35 oppositions, as a 3rd planet is exactly in that trigger point. Nevertheless, Pholus together with Quasar. So this is just coming up in the next few days. It's a lineup of frequencies. Now, if we go and look how this will express this Black Moon Cancer ingress in different locations on the planet, here it is in Moscow, with the galactic center rising. Well, I guess this tells you everything, that that's probably where the strongest guiding force is coming in. And in this context, I want to show you this here, which I found also quite a remarkable piece of news. So BlackRock head admits our new world order has failed. Well, he didn't say it exactly in these words, but that's kind of the in a nutshell, if he translated what he says. What he said was, the world is undergoing a transformation. Russia's brutal attack on Ukraine, well, that's what the narrative is. Russia's brutal attack on Ukraine has upended the world order. The world order that had been in place since the end of the Cold War. More than 30 years ago, Fink wrote in his letter to shareholders last week. And for those of you who are not aware of what BlackRock is, that's a big overarching corporation which pretty much owns all the news media, all the entertainment outlets. So they're pretty much at the center of control of organizing all those false narratives. So he is truly, truly concerned that something might change, or has already changed with Russia's attack on the Ukraine, which is not really attack, as we all know. And he keeps continuing. The magnitude of Russia's actions will play out for decades to come and mark a turning point in the world order of geopolitics, macroeconomic trends, and capital markets. Here we have it. Russia really threw a big stick into their wheels. And it's no surprise that the Galactic Center here is at the ascendant in Russia, which is empowering them to do the right thing, and Mercury at the 4th house cusp here, actually in a most exact conjunction here of TX300. Only about 10 minutes or so later, this conjunction was exact after the black moon entered Cancer. So TX300 is bold, loud. It showed very strongly in that Canadian trucker event in February. It's a loud, big voice, and it isn't afraid of really showing that. It's rattling the drum. So that's what we see here, and definitely links in also with all those big solar flares empowering Mercury. Mercury, again, the planet of perception in general, is the one which will be so important to come to its senses in a overall way, people waking up to what's truly going on. That's what Mercury is all about in the end. So this is Russia, and then this is the Greenwich chart, as I already showed you. And then here, this is the Paris chart with the moon right at the 10th house cusp. Beautiful, powerful. And last not least, I also chose Washington, D.C. to see how it's playing out here locally. It seems it's not the immediate place of action yet. It's getting ready, and there is more exposure of really dark stuff here with the part of fortune here exactly on Nessus. And the 6th house again is about exposure and healing. So it is, first of all, yes, everything has to be really put into the open, and I guess we are pretty much in the center of this process. So also, I did do this graphic here, which shows you the. Let me first go to the bigger maps. To the world map. Let's go here. Okay, just bear with me one sec. Okay. So this is the moment the black moon enters Cancer and focused on Greenwich here again. And we have here now lots of lines. It's the local lines, and the let me take the local lines out for a second first to make it more easier to understand. Okay, let's remove these for a sec. So here you have the vertical lines are where the moon is here exactly overhead. See, here is Paris, very close by. And for example, the black moon is exactly overhead here in the Midwest, around Chicago in the US. Naturally, no surprise here. That here is really what most has to be revealed. That's where all the power centers kind of work out of. The top layer, you could say. There's lots going on underneath, naturally. But let's move, let's zoom in here onto France and Europe for a moment. Again, you see here the moon, yes, very close here, exactly going through Brussels. And now I will add the local space lines from Greenwich as being the, again, the umbilical connection with the cosmos. Now, I find it really interesting that the black moon line here, see here we have the black moon local space line, goes exactly through Brussels and Belgium, here Brussels being the headquarters of NATO and the EU, and also here the moon is exactly going through that place exactly overhead, just a little bit away from culminating in Paris. And in Paris, by the way, we have here the local space lines of the Sun, with Eris, with Pallas, Hygeia, and Mercury. If we go back to the charts, the astrological charts, I want to just zoom in on this once more, where we are here. Okay, so let's go back to the chart for France. So this is the conjunction here we are talking about, which is also exact today. I mean, it's such a powerful moment in time we are right at, and it's at the eve of the most loaded, symbolically, weekend of the year, I would say. I mean, it's death and resurrection, which the Easter weekend represents. Tomorrow, Good Friday, being, which in itself is a misnomer. Why would you call something so dark and Good Friday? No. Yeah, that doesn't make sense at all. It's again an inverted reality, I would call it. And if you look deeper into everything in our world, so many things have been inverted just to confuse. Anyway, so this energy is going right through France, which again shows that France will be at the leading edge of taking the sword, cutting through BS, and leading out of this confusion into a better and healthier world. Well, I will leave it at that. So thanks again for joining and listening, and talk to you soon.